What is up, Bills Mafia, Buffalo Fanatics? How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to another edition of Rated Rev, brought to you by BetUS on the Buffalo Fanatics Network. What is good? Everybody who is joining us live right now, whether you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or Twitter, wherever the case may be, do me this favor. Go ahead and smash that like as you enter in this show. And let's get it. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? My mic is not muted tonight. It's not muted tonight, baby. I made sure I got that thing on tonight. You guys hop on in here. This is a roll call. And welcome to everybody who is tuning us right now live. Shout out to my wife because she made sure that my mic was on right before I went on. She's like, babe, turn your mic on. And I'm like, I'm glad you reminded me. Nevertheless, hey, that's what a good woman is for, I tell you that. So hop on in here, let me know where you're at, baby. I want to know where you're watching live from. And to those of you who are listening to this on podcast format, welcome to the show. In case you don't know who I am the host, Rev Rhodes, aka Rated Rev, and this is the Rated Rev Show, brought to you by BetUS on the best network, bringing you nothing but the best in Bills content that is none other than the Buffalo Fanatics. And I'm seeing everybody popping in here right now in the chat. Let me know where you at. D. Raleigh from San Diego. What's good? I got King Noble 07 from Yuma, Arizona. Yo, I've got to give a shout out real quick. I see somebody all the way from my neck of the woods, man. 915 Buffalo Bill repping the EPTX, El Paso, Texas. What's happening, man? Yo, we got to connect. I'm right here in El Paso tonight, baby. This is where I'm at. What is happening? Man, you don't see hardly any Bills fans repping from the 915, but I got to give you a shout out. I've got Ronald Fogan in here. I see some familiar faces coming from Dover, Delaware. What's good? Donna BOP coming in from New Jersey. What is happening, everybody? It is so good to be with you guys here on another Wednesday night edition of Rated Rev. I hope everybody has had a fantastic start to their week. I hope you guys have enjoyed this time off as the Bills have, pressed the reset button coming off of their bye week. Now entering into, what is this, week 8 or week 7, something like that. And they are playing host to the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers at Highmark Stadium on Sunday Night Football. In case you don't know by now, this is going to be another fantastic game, another fantastic matchup. But guess what else is going to be fantastic? Tonight's show. I've got a loaded, jam-packed show tonight. I'm going to be joined by a few special guests. All of these guests that are going to be joining me today are familiar faces, so you guys know them well. A couple of them are born and bred right here with the BF, the Buffalo Fanatics, and I can't wait to bring them on. And so this is going to be another great show, if I can't say so myself. But hey, I am excited. Scott Blakely, what's good, baby? Let's go indeed. Jose comes in, he says, yo, what's up, Red? Bills 37, Pack 16. All right. I like what I'm seeing so far. Yo, Jay Company says, yo, Rev, they are calling that game a trap game. You know what? Maybe if this was a few years ago, I would consider this a trap game for the Bills, but I don't think this team right now, the way they're made, and especially the way they seem to be so laser focused this season, I don't think they're taking any game on their schedule lightly at all. I think they have a bad taste in their mouth from last year, and the way they ended their season in such dramatic fashion that they are coming in here this year all steam ahead. They are not letting the brakes off of the gas off of anybody. They are ready and locked and loaded this year. So we'll see what happens as we get closer and closer to the Bills matchup with the Green Bay Packers tonight. But ladies and gentlemen, again, welcome to the show. Smash that like for me. Do me that favor. Smash that like. To those of you who may be joining for the very first time, if you are joining for the first time, welcome to Rated Rev Show on the Buffalo Fanatics Network. I am so glad that you are here joining us, joining me live, and the chat is where it's at. I'm telling you right now, you need to stay tuned into the chat because there's a whole lot of conversation that goes on to the chat. And if it were not for you guys, I'm talking about everybody who's watching this live, those who watch on the replay, those who are listening in podcast form. If it was not for you all, I say this every week, but there would be no Rated Rev and there would be no Buffalo Fanatics. So thank you so very much for everybody who's tuning in and all of our longtime supporters, longtime listeners, and for those who are joining and listening for the very first time. I thank you so very much. I don't take it lightly. But let's get into the show. We've got, like I said, a jam-packed show tonight. I've got a lot of topics I want to touch into. I want to talk about. I've got people coming in right now. They're still showing love. Jennifer Whittle coming from San Antonio. What's good? We got some family out there in San Antonio, Jennifer. So glad that you're joining us tonight. Randall Fogan, he says, yo, preach, Rev. Hey, man, hey, I'm going to do it, baby. You know I'm going to do it. I saw somebody who said this is a first time listener. Where did they go? I don't know if I missed you, man. Where did you go? I thought I just saw you. Here we go. Russell Bodie. What's happening, man? First timer. Everybody in the chat right now, drop Russell Bodie some mics or some fire emojis and make him feel welcome tonight on Rated Rev. Russell, I appreciate you for tuning in, baby, but let's get into the show. So as you can see already, as you already know, we have the title of the show. Tonight we are going to be talking about Tre'Davious White. Man, oh man. I don't know about you, but I am excited about Tre'Davious White jumping back into the lineup, coming back in for such a, what seems like a long time, well, it really has been, almost a year absence from the Buffalo Bills, as he's been rehabbing and getting back to shape and getting back to form from that torn ACL that he sustained last year on the Thanksgiving game against the Saints. But man, oh man, are we inching ever so closer to seeing Tre'Davious White back in action. And I can't wait. And I see some more first-timers coming in. All right, man, come on now. That's what I'm talking about. Where you at? Nicole Mex, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Beltran, first time also from Mexico. What's good, Mr. Beltran? I'm so glad that you joined us tonight. Smash that like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on those bell notifications, baby. Don Handsome, yo, this is an inside joke. Don always gets on me every single week when it comes to me and my mics. He's always making fun of me. He comes in tonight. He says, yo, did Rev start on mute? No, I didn't start on mute, Don. Come on, baby. You know better than that. I'm learning. And I've learned tonight my mic was hot. So I'm ready to go. But tonight we're going to talk about Tre'Davious White. As you can already see in the thumbnail, the title of the show tonight is When Trey White Returns. Who is the odd man out? Oh, man. That is such a loaded question that I want to dive into head first tonight. But not only am I going to talk about that, we're going to talk about that ad nauseum, but I'm also going to talk about some other topics right now. So I've got Trey White. I'm going to talk about Trey White in the cornerback room. I also want to touch on some trade conversation, trade talk. What should Brandon Beane do as we get closer and closer to the NFL trade deadline? You're going to want to keep it locked right here because I'm going to talk about that. And I'll be joined on that segment of the show by Kevin Siracuse. He will join me, ladies and gentlemen, later on. And then we're going to talk about an NFL division rundown. I want to run down the NFL divisions. And we're going to crown some of the NFL's best and worst divisions. You want to stay tuned for that. And then I want to talk about a very special kind of question. And it's, is this the end of an era? You say, Rev, what are you talking about? Well, you want to make sure you stay right here on Rated Rev later on in the show, as I'll be joined by another special guest to talk about that. But right now, we are going to get into the first topic of the show, and we are going to do that with our brand new segment called First and 10. First and 10 is a new segment of the show. And what that is, that's the leadoff segment, the leadoff topic of the show. And tonight, I could not do this by myself. I had to go ahead and bring on a guest, a guest who you guys have seen before. And if you have not seen him, you've probably read a lot of his articles. He is a very well-known contributor to the Buffalo Fanatics. It is a good friend, a dear friend of mine. And he is coming all the way. You're from, I think he's in Canada, right? In Canada. But you got it. I love his accent. But it is my man, Iestyn T. Harris. So you guys do me this favor and welcome my brother from another mother, Iestyn, as he joins Rated Rev live tonight. Iestyn, what is going on, man? How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, Rep. Thanks for having me on, mate.
Man,
much appreciated.
Anytime, man. Anytime, brother. I tell you what, man. I'm glad that you were able to hop on with me tonight. And we're gonna just jump right into it, man. First of all, before we dive right into it, man, let me know, man, what's been going on with you, man? How's life been? Any news that you would like to share? How's everything been going on with you?
Things have been going quite well. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I been working hard. I've been running this weekly segment that I got to start a couple months ago, the Buffalo Bulletin over on Buffalo Fanatics, and
nice.
It's been good. I get to cover whatever the hot topic for the week is, and share what I know. And sometimes I'm wrong, but usually I'd like to believe usually I'm right. And it's been great so far. Talking about how we should extend Jordan Poyer, talking about how we should adjust without Trey's absence to start the season.
Mm-hmm.
What we should do about Tremaine Edmonds when the time comes. Can we stick around with Devin Singletary? Is he going to hang on to this team when his contract expires, and so on and so forth? It's been a great deal of fun writing about it.
Yes, and you wrote about a very interesting article, nonetheless, here recently, right? That we're going to talk about tonight, and it goes, just right in hand with our main topic tonight, and it's about Tre'Davious White on your Buffalo Bulletin piece, and it's titled, what to expect when Tre'Davious White returns. And so, you know what I mean? There's been a whole lot of anticipation, right, to say the least, for Tre'Davious White coming back off of that ACL injury that he sustained last year in the Thanksgiving game, and we've been seeing him kind of progressing, right? Word has come out over the course of like this early in training camp that he decided to stay back in Buffalo and was rehabbing the entire time. He's been putting in a whole lot of work, and now we saw a little clips. I think it was a couple of weeks ago of Tre'Davious White back at practice for the first time. And he looked pretty good, man. He looked good, and it was just glad to see him out there. He looked to be his old fun, jovial self, right? Just having fun with the fellas out there running around, and he looked very crisp in some of his drills. And so a lot of fans and just Bills Mafia all over the world really were just wondering what is going on with Tre'Davious White. When is he going to return to action? Because he's now been off the PUP list now, and so they have this 21-day window, right, to activate him to the 53-man roster. If I'm not mistaken, I think that window. When did that start? Yeah.
The window opened up on October 12th. That was when McDermott and Bean agreed to open up his practice window. It initiates a 21-day window. And at the conclusion of that window, he needs to be put onto the active roster, or if they fail to activate him to the roster at the end of that 21-day window, he reverts to the injured reserve and is ruled out for the entirety of the season.
Right.
That won't happen. Even if he's not ready to play at the end of that 21-day window, they'll put him on the roster, and if he needs a lot longer recovery, they'd bump him back to the IR temporarily. Right. But they would have to activate him to the initial roster before they did that. So what the expectation is that since he's not going to be playing this week, since the team has come out and announced that he will not play this Sunday, Tuesday is when his window will begin to close. That is the last day he can be activated to the roster. I would expect the Bills to activate him then. They're going to keep the current roster as it stands for this Sunday. They don't want to cut anybody ahead of this game just to keep Tre'Davious White on the roster but inactive. Right. So they'll activate him directly after the game.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be interesting. His recovery has gone smoothly. There have been no setbacks, but it's
Which is good.
also
I'm glad you mentioned that there's been no setbacks because I saw somewhere on Twitter earlier today that was put out. I can't remember who it was, but they kind of insinuated that because Tre'Davious White was not activated for the game, that he could have had a setback. Which I mean that is not confirmed, and so we get more reports.
he hasn't had a setback, and if he had, it would have been big news since he was at practice today in a full contact jersey. No more red non-contact jersey. He's running at full speed in practice, running every drill in practice at full speed. The issue isn't about his fitness for this game. It's about it's about preparation. He's not at game speed yet. He's not ready to come back and play at full speed in a game. He's still working back towards that, even though his leg is expected to be entirely healed at this point. His ACL is repaired and he should be fully recovered. But he's going to need practice time. These past couple of weeks have been him rehabbing up to full speed, and now he'll be going full speed, but he's not going to be ready to play in a game.
Not a game ready. Yeah, because I think people have to understand the fact that, okay, not only is he coming back from a torn ACL, and though his timetable has I guess, concluded to a degree as far as him being recovered from that injury, this now actually essentially like starts his off season to a degree. I mean, he has to kind of jumpstart the process, whereas the team has been working hard at it, since OTAs and minicamp. Well, now Trey, now that he's fully healthy, he's having to get up to game speed and kind of be caught up pretty fast. So to throw him out there in a game like this, it just wouldn't benefit Trey, especially. And I think that because we have such good depth, right? I mean, when you look at Dane Jackson, Kyrie Elam, and Christian Benford back, I think that affords us the opportunity to kind of slow play it with Trey White to make sure that he's back as healthy as he can be, or not necessarily healthy, but as ready for live game action as he possibly can. So this is a good thing. I know a lot of Bills fans were upset and disappointed, I guess you could say, that he wasn't going to be playing this game. I kind of figured that they would slow play it. I thought that he would at least maybe get a couple of snaps or a few snaps here and there, but I'm okay with it. Especially looking at where the Bills team is right now. I mean, record 5-1. I mean, so that's pretty good. It's not like they're in desperation mode right now where they need Trey White playing and they're like, having to overcome a slew of injuries at the cornerback position. They're good, they're fine, and they're doing the right thing by Trey White. So, but you talked about in your article, which is a very interesting article to say the least. And look, just to everybody who's watching live and those who are listening via podcast format, you need to go to supportbf.com, follow us on all of our social media platforms, and go to buffalofanatics.com and check out this piece by Iestyn because it is a very good article about what to expect when Trey returns. And Iestyn, so you talked about his return to action, right?
Yes.
And so go ahead and talk about that because Leslie Frazier had also made some comments about what he expects from Trey White as well.
Yes, Leslie Frazier said in his press conference earlier this week that it will be, and as a direct quote, it will be a gradual process when he comes back. There was sort of foreshadowing to him not coming back this weekend, but it does mean that we take it to mean what we all expect from this, which is a pitch count on his return, taking limited snaps on a weekly basis, and we. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had the slimmest cornerback unit in the NFL. But this week, we have everyone back healthy. We have an entire complement of defensive backs fully ready and fully ready to play outside of course, Micah Hyde. But Tre'Davious White doesn't need to come back right away. We're playing a very weak receiving core to start this game against the Packers. And though, in my opinion, this would have been a good opportunity to tune him up and give him limited snaps, it makes perfect sense that they wouldn't put him out there unless absolutely ready, because it's not his health now that matters, it's his health in January when we need him most.
Absolutely.
So with his return, he will be on a pitch count through his first few games, which should gradually increase. They may use him periodically. They may use him in early drives and then remove him to rest him for the game. They may save him and put him in late when they really need him most, or when it's a blowout and they think that those are safe snaps for him to get. Because as much practice as he could possibly be getting, there's nothing quite like game speed. Even if you go as hard as you can in practice, there isn't that killer instinct that switches on when you see that ball flying your way and you're 6 yards out from a defensive back and you need from a receiver as a defensive back, and you need to close.
Right.
Because playing cornerback is a reactive position in the NFL. We may, a lot of people talk about ACLs now and about how Cam Akers returned so quickly from his injury last year for the Rams. He tore it right at the beginning of the season, was back for the Super Bowl, helped them win a chip. That's because offense is an active position. You choose what direction you move in. You grab the ball, you turn, you get to try and make that man miss.
Yeah.
As a defensive back, you need to face your opponent as either the ball comes to them or as they try and elude your coverage, or they have the ball in their hands and you need to make a tackle. You need to anticipate their movement and react to it, which is a lot more strain through the nerves and tendons all throughout your legs. And that's why a lot of injuries to a player's ACL happen when guys are reacting, much like Trey did on the play that injured him. So because of that, it takes some significantly longer recovery time. You need to be you can't test it the same way. You could run halfway through your ACL recovery, but that doesn't mean you can play defensive back.
So because even in a practice setting doing drills, as a DB, I would imagine the drill and you know what you're supposed to be doing. So even though you're not really reacting like you would in a game, everything is kind of premeditated. And so you're
doing an active drill as opposed to a reactive drill. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's it.
Yeah, go ahead. We've had a significant amount of defensive back depth now, which allows us to take him back slowly as opposed to rushing him back, which would be essentially the worst thing we could do.
Yeah. We can't. Yeah, we definitely can't rush Trey White back, man. We need him for the long haul, and it's a good thing that and kudos to Brandon Beane and his staff that we were able to find like diamonds in the rough, so to speak, in Christian Benford, and that we're also able to get Dane Jackson back healthy. That he missed that could have been a very serious injury, and he's playing at a very good level too. So our quarterback position right now, minus Trey White, I know that you can't replace an All-Pro level talent. But within the scheme, within the system, the Bills have been doing very well so far, and we're comfortable to a degree. So we're able to kind of, just like I mentioned earlier, just kind of slow play and let Trey White make sure that he's back to full strength as possible. You had mentioned also within this article managing his comeback and what that kind of looks like. As he would have to manage his comeback, especially when you look at Kyrie Elam and Christian Benford. What do you go ahead and kind of talk to us about what you foresee the Bills doing in that regard?
Well, in terms of managing his comeback, they will be putting him in I would expect a rotational basis, not snap per snap like a defensive line rotation, but as opposed to drive per drive. Generally during a drive, an NFL offense will consistently use their receivers in the same way, but they won't use their offensive line. They'll swap up coverages, they'll swap up block assignments, but they don't do the same thing with receivers. Because when you're right underneath the quarterback, you can adjust to a play in short notice. Receivers and defensive backs don't operate in the same capacity. They're a little more isolated, so I would expect Trey to get a couple of drives in here and there as he does return to the game, but not general rotational sort of snap usage like you would expect from defensive linemen. He has thankfully got plenty of help around him, and I'm excited to see what they do. But I have my own sort of predictions as to who plays where around as he comes back.
And hold that, because I want to talk about that, because that's very intriguing, and that kind of is what leads to my main topic of the show. But I've got to get into this super chat by Jeff King. Jeff, what's going on, baby? Jeff King comes in. Appreciate that donation, buddy. He says, "Your pride, arrogance, and ignorance fall hand in hand, folks. Love my Bills, fans since the 70s. I hope no one is taking this game lightly, especially the Bills. That's still the Packers coming into town, and that's still Aaron Rodgers." Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. I don't think the team is taking them lightly. Maybe there may be some fans here, who take them lightly, and say, well, the Packers, they're this or that. But as long as they have a potential Hall of Famer at quarterback who may not look to be showing any signs of regression, or he might, I don't know. That's something for later on in the show to talk about. But Aaron Rodgers, though, is still a very, very good quarterback.
Absolutely.
Very good quarterback. And so he has the potential to be deadly and to hurt us. And we don't want this game to sneak up on us, right?
Absolutely.
And we hear Aaron Rodgers, kind of talking in the media, and he's calling out some of his guys, which, I mean, you say what you want about that, what I'm saying, whether or not he's, passing the buck of responsibility, as the face of the franchise, as a quarterback, whatever the case may be. But I think he's trying to motivate these young guys to step up and do what they have to do, because he understands just how important it is, and he understands how important this game is. So we'll see, man. We have to make sure that we bring our A game every single week, and I have no doubt whatsoever that the Bills will do that, especially when you look at what happened last year going against the Jags. And I just don't see this team yesterday. Maybe you agree or you disagree, but I just don't see this team laying eggs like that again.
No, they've learned their lesson a couple of times. Fall asleep for one play, fall asleep for one game, fall asleep for a half. We've blown a few leads. We've let games go that we should have had. We've let a single play like the Hail Murray end what should have been an incredibly successful performance. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs scored a supposed game winner right at the end there and didn't get the chance again because of that Hail Murray that they fell asleep just for one play. I mean, it was an incredible play, but Hopkins did get open in that end zone for a moment, and it let him get targeted. It's the same thing with Kansas City. They fell asleep near the end. These individual plays can happen. This pain kind of sticks with the players for a long time. That's sort of the tattoo on their career, as Kyle Brandt said. This matters a lot to these guys, and they're extremely proud, and they should be. But they're not going to forget those lessons learned. This isn't a new group of guys. These are the same guys who hurt the same way all the fans hurt when all those losses happened, and they're not going to take any opponent easy as far as it goes. No
need to worry in that regard, Jeff. Especially for the team, that's not happening. These guys are going to come out firing on all cylinders. But yes, and I wanted to ask you this one question though, man, as it pertains to Trey White's return, and to those of you who are watching, maybe you're just now joining. Welcome to the Rated Rev, brought to you by BetUS on the Buffalo Fanatics Network. I am the host, Rev Rose, joined by a good friend of ours, contributor to Buffalo Fanatics, Iestyn T. Harris, and we're talking about Tre'Davious White and how he was. I think that is my. Can y'all hear that? Do y'all hear that? That is I guess that's in my ear only. I had told. This is funny. Now this is going off in my headset. Yes, and I got to talk about this. So there's this alarm going off in my headset. Iestyn and I had talked before the show about and I had said, man, I'm trying my best to make sure that I am like timely, right? Because I have a tendency to get long-winded with my points and talk long. And so I said, I'm going to set a timer. Okay. And that sound, I don't know if you guys heard it, but I heard it. It was like, where's that coming from? That was the sound of my timer going off. But I'm going to ignore it right now because I started late today. Okay. So I'm going to give myself, some more time. But anyway, I thought that was funny because I was like, what the heck is that noise coming? I didn't expect the time. I didn't expect there to be a bell going off, but I'm watching it on the bottom of my screen here. Anyway, yes. And so in talking about Trey White and his return, one of the main questions that I have to ask, man, is once he does return
at 100%,
at 100%, yeah. Once he returns at 100%, who is the odd man out? Because we see these guys, we see Kyer right now, Kyer Elam, Dane Jackson, right, have been holding the fort down. But earlier in the year, it was Dane Jackson and then a mixture of Elam and Benford, and then it looked like Benford was kind of gaining some steam on Elam, and then he sustained his hand injury and missed a couple of games, and so now you see Elam in there the majority of the time now, but now Benford is back, and so we're still going to continue to see that rotation with them. But once Trey is back at 100%, we've got three cornerbacks, three starting level cornerbacks, and Dane Jackson, Kyer Elam, and Christian Benford. Who is the odd man out? Because somebody has to sit the bench, and I don't see them going with the rotation. I think they're doing this rotation long enough, right? All season, training camp, OTAs, going into preseason now, 7 games, going on 8 games now into the season. Once Trey gets back at 100%, they surely should know by now who is going to be the lead dog opposite Trey White. What do you foresee happening at that position once Trey gets back?
Well, for starters, historically, Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier and defensive backs coach John Butler, as a unit, always start 5 players in this secondary on every single snap. They do not break out of their nickel 4-3 base defense that we run. We run a base 4-3 in nickel, so everyone knows we've subbed out the third linebacker and put in Taron takes 100% of his snaps at the slot every play. So do both safeties and both cornerbacks. They stick with 100% snaps every single game. It's been, for a vast majority of their careers, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer manning that backfield 100% of snaps. They do not miss a play for any reason.
Yeah.
Tre'Davious White was outside playing 100% of snaps, and we would expect them to be looking for another 100% snap starter on the other side, which would realistically mean 2 men ride the bench.
Yeah.
Out of that group of 3. 2. Just one guy gets the consistent starting job. Sure, they may rotate someone else in. They may have a guy on standby. You know, what if someone gets hurt and they need to run in for a couple plays while they get up and catch their breath, you know?
Yeah.
But realistically, only one of these guys is actually going to be playing a vast majority of the snaps, and maybe one guy will get a 20% share. Right. And the person who's going to miss out definitively is going to be Christian Benford. Benford has he looked like the most well-rounded cornerback out of the rookies this season, coming into the games, but he isn't. He missed his opportunity a little bit when he got hurt, and that's no fault of his own. His play didn't take a step back, but those couple, the extra attention and the extra on-field time that Kaya Elam got as a result of Benford's injury gave him the reps he needed to help find his rhythm. People will look at the Pittsburgh Steelers game, and though Elam got an interception, he was heavily criticized after the game for giving up so many yards to
he was
to that Steelers offense with Kenny Pickett,
George Pickens and
George Pickens catching a lot of it. But if you notice, every catch Elam gave up on the entirety of the game was an underneath route. And Kaya Elam is a guy who came out of college playing a lot of press coverage right up the line of scrimmage, interfere with them at the point of the snap, knock them off their route, and then use your athleticism, speed, and length to bail and keep them off their route and well defended, which is a phenomenal cornerback play.
Right.
But Elam can't do that in the NFL. Press coverage isn't used the same way in the NFL, and it's definitely not used the same way in this defense. So they want him playing off the line of scrimmage, which allows his defenders to get open underneath, and he has to drop down into coverage again for a guy. There's a large bracket of space between him and the receiver at the beginning of every route. So short, quick hitters will consistently beat Elam, but if they play Elam consistently on the slot side with Taron Johnson, he's got help readily available at the line of scrimmage. And Trey would be able to play the other side. I don't expect Elam to get all the snaps, but Elam should be the leader of this group because his play has grown in his time, and they're looking for a long.
So Elam over Dane.
Elam over Dane. Dane gets a 20% snap share because he's still a veteran. He's still a very good cornerback, but Dane was projected out of college to be at best a career NFL backup, and he's already far exceeded that. We should be using the rest of his time on his contract as a quality depth piece behind Elam. But Elam is still a rookie, and he will still make mistakes, and there will still be learning points for him where he needs to step back out of the game, catch a breather, watch a guy like Dane go in and do the job consistently. To let Elam sort of catch his breath and recoup and get right.
That's interesting. That's interesting that you're going with Elam over Dane here. Now, I would agree with you. I mean, he's a first round draft pick. I mean, you have to play him at some point, and he's been proving that he's ready. But I know McDermott, he loves these veterans, man. There's something about him and these vets that he just absolutely loves. But I was thinking as well, like, okay, you've got Trey coming back. Nobody is taking this. This is all hypothetical, assuming that he's back at 100%. Nobody's taking any snaps away from Trey. So on the other side, you've got these 3 cornerbacks, right? That you have to figure out who's going to get the majority of the snaps there. You have a first round cornerback in Kyer Elam that you have to play. You just have to play. I can't see them sitting him on the bench this year for Dane Jackson.
Mhm.
I just don't see it happening. And so when I project going forward, even beyond this year, there's something that's very that really intrigues me, and it's that Dane Jackson will be a RFA next year. Dane Jackson will be a restricted free agent
Mhm.
at the conclusion of this season. And so, with that in mind, Iestyn, when you consider that long term beyond this year,
Mhm.
especially when you look at the whole restricted free agency part of it, um, what do you think Brandon Beane will do with Dane Jackson? Do you foresee it now? Here's my opinion. I'm wondering if at the trade deadline, if somebody like Dane Jackson could be dealt at the trade deadline, understanding that I've got Kyer Elam, I've got Trey White back, I've got Christian Benford, who a surprise, who we didn't really expect to perform like he has this year, but he's showing that he's ready and he can play whenever we need him to. And then we've got Dane Jackson, who's a restricted free agent. Granted, with the how all that is set up, when the offseason hits, they have an opportunity to either match him or tender him. But at this particular point in the season, right now at the trade deadline, there could be some teams who may take the bait, who may be looking for a cornerback, who may be needy. Can you foresee Brandon Beane shipping Dane Jackson off to some team, some cornerback needy team? I don't know, maybe the New York Giants. I don't know. There's a relationship there with Dane Jackson in exchange for I don't know what kind of draft pick they can get or kind of player capital they can get. Can you see him trading Dane Jackson? I understand people are like, whoa, Rev, man, cornerback position. We don't want to get rid of anybody at the cornerback position right now because anything can happen. We don't know Trey White's health and when he gets back and blah blah blah. And any injury can really put us back behind the eight ball again. I get that, but you still have to. I mean, I know that Beane has to be thinking about this, right? And weighing all of these options. If you put on your GM hat right now, what would you do with Dane Jackson if you already believe that Kyer Elam is going to be the guy getting the majority of the snaps opposite Trey White when he returns?
I believe that that as a general manager, there's nothing better you can do than providing quality depth at high value positions on extended cost controlled contracts. So essentially building through the draft by selecting these guys late and finding serviceable guys at premium positions, expensive positions against the cap, like cornerback, like offensive tackle on either side of the line, and other positions like that. The best thing you can do is to find quality talent at the level that you can keep cheap and then use for the entirety of its contract. Now, Dane Jackson was a 7th round pick in 2020, but he went to the practice squad, didn't make the initial roster, which meant that 4-year rookie contract that he had became null and void. When we brought him back to the roster from the practice squad and signed him, it was only a 2-year deal, which is why it ends now at the end of 2022 instead of at the end of 2023. But by keeping him as a by having a clause in there to make him a restricted free agent means that at the end of this, we can put a tender on him. And if the market sees value in him, we can see some level of compensation from another team for letting him go as a restricted free agent.
Yeah.
So something else that's we've noticed from this front office is that they consistently, and this is year over year for the past few seasons, value depth because they know this is worthy of a deep playoff run. It's not about losing one cornerback because we have a serviceable backup. If it's Trey and if it's Elam and we've traded away Dane and one of those guys goes down, we know that Benford can step in and be a starting quality corner for a few games if needed. But what if 2 guys go down? Trey's coming off an ACL. Elam is a rookie who plays a very rangy, very athletic game. It could very easily happen to either one of them or both of them.
Sure. Yeah.
We don't have the security anymore, and we are too good of a team right now to let go of that talent because it could come down to those little differences in making the Super Bowl run. But
what about this? I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. Yes, no, but what about? I mean, you talked about I guess being if by any chance you sustain injuries to a couple of players, right? If Trey re-aggravates his ACL, or if Kyrie Elam gets injured or something like that, then you have to consider the fact that, man, we're right back at square one with a very thin DB backfield or room rather. But what about one particular individual that maybe some people have kind of forgotten about, but what about this guy right here? What about Xavier Rhodes?
Xavier Rhodes, yeah.
What about? Because he's there, and I think his hamstring is fine now. I think they just put him there, because they're expecting Trey White to get back.
Well, because he's on the practice squad injury reserve, he doesn't count against the practice squad roster, which means that we have another extra guy. But it also means that he can't practice. Yeah. And with hamstrings, it is tricky. Jordan Phillips was always just a couple days away from coming back from that hamstring for like 4 straight weeks there, and he barely got on the field at all. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm still not certain he's fully healed from it. It is quote unquote only a hamstring, but the risk with Xavier Rhodes is that not only is it only a hamstring, but he's also 30 plus. Yeah. He's also missing experience in this scheme. Specifically, yes, he had a year or 2 with Leslie Frazier back in Minnesota back in like 2014.
Yeah,
but it's not accurate experience to the defense we're running right now, and right. I think that Rhodes could be a perfectly good call up, but we're not talking about calling a guy up from the practice squad to fill in for a game here. We're talking about asking a guy to come off of the practice squad where he's not getting reps with that first team at any point. And come into a game realistically in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, even if we get there, knock knock.
Yeah, right.
It's too big of a task to put on a guy coming off the practice squad, coming off an injury, who's also aged and inexperienced in this scheme. I like Rhodes. I think he's a perfectly good talent. I would have been happy if we'd signed him to the roster before the season, but I think that at this point, they'd much rather stick with the guys who have more playing experience in our scheme, and then tag them with a low round tender and get a late draft pick for Dane Jackson after the season's over anyway. You'll still get something back by tendering him if a team thinks he's good enough, and if they don't think he's good enough, then we re-sign him cheaply and have phenomenal depth for the next 2 or 3 seasons at defensive back.
Okay, I see that. It's just hard for me. I understand how we need to secure these depth, right? Keep depth at least through this season. Mm-hmm. But projecting long term, at least beyond this season, it's kind of hard for me to see Dane Jackson coming back, or the Bills even matching his tender. I just don't see him even coming back. But I guess while you have him this year, go ahead. But I guess it would also depend on what kind of calls that Brandon Beane would be getting for Dane Jackson. He'd have to be wowed by an offer that would, make him think twice about that.
Yeah, realistically, I think that teams will offer a 7th. Mm-hmm. It's equal draft position. You've got 2.5 years out of Dane Jackson already, and he's giving you some good snaps for 2.5 years. To get the draft pick back that you selected him with would be a good return on that 7th round investment. Half the 7th round picks in the NFL don't even make the roster as a rookie. So Dane Jackson didn't, and he still came back and performed for us.
Right.
It is a very, very good return on your investment, but what better return? Do you get a better return by getting another 7th round pick to take a swing on, or do you get a better return by keeping that guy as a usable bit of depth in a potential Super Bowl run? It's how you value these two things. And Brandon Beane has valued late round draft picks very well. He consistently trades away low level talent that might not make the roster or will barely make the roster in order for good draft capital over the next couple of seasons. He's done it every year of his career. Even before he drafted Josh Allen, he was doing it. It's good general management, but we know that realistically we can get the same draft capital back at the end of the season by tendering him as a restricted free agent as we can get mid-season right now without losing his depth for the rest of the season. Yeah. And if they don't, then the contract that he would be returning to us on, if no team is willing to pay him enough to give us a draft pick on the tender, then we'll be able to retain him for a contract in reasonably the $2.5 million a year range.
Yeah,
that could easily be as little as $1 million on the salary cap.
Right, and I think Brandon Beane would probably at that point, if he is already looking at his roster and says, you know what, it's Trey White and Kyrie Elam. I think at that point he would probably be willing just to kind of cut bait, with Dane Jackson and let him kind of move on and earn an opportunity somewhere else where he can start.
Exactly.
But,
That would absolutely be the point of the tender, is to give him the opportunity to go elsewhere, but still try and get something. You're not expecting to retain him. You're expecting to get a little bit of something in return because you know you can.
Right, exactly, and that goes down to this whole balancing act. Do you think you get more at the end of the season, or you think you can get more right now before the deadline? Weighing that versus your current roster right now as it stands, and the health of Trey White, all that. It's a lot. I'm glad I'm not a GM. I am absolutely glad I'm not a GM. But man, you know what I am glad about, man? I'm glad that you joined me tonight. Yes, and I really appreciate you, man, coming on and sharing your thoughts. Absolutely, man, about Trey White. And listen, you guys, smash that like. And go ahead and give Iestyn a follow, man. He is Iestyn, man. I'm gonna give you the time, and go ahead and let everybody know where they can follow you on social media.
Right. I do a lot of my work, most of it on Twitter. So you can find me on there at Iestyn T Harris. It's the name that's on me right here. That is an I, not an L, to start it off. Don't worry, everybody gets it wrong. But yeah, find me there. I'm writing twice a week, 3 times a week sometimes. Depends on how much free time I get.
There we go. There we go.
Thank
man,
you.
I appreciate you, buddy. I appreciate you, man. And you guys make sure you go ahead and go to the BuffaloFanatics.com and catch up on Iestyn's article about Tre'Davious White. There's a whole lot more in there that we didn't get to talk about tonight, but I guarantee you will not regret reading it. Iestyn, I appreciate you, man. Have yourself a wonderful evening. Man, be safe, and we'll talk to you soon again.
And you too, Rev.
All right, man. Go Bills, man.
Go Bills.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was my man, Iestyn T. Harris. This guy, man, he's a wealth of knowledge, a very, very, very knowledgeable young man. And man, I enjoy having the chance to get him on to the show. You guys definitely need to check out that article by him and read it, because he goes in depth about some more things about Tre'Davious White's return and what to expect. He's a fantastic contributor to the Buffalo Fanatics, and we appreciate everything that he does with us. But as we are moving in onto the show, we are just a little bit over 45 minutes into the show, and I appreciate everybody who has been joining us right now and rocking with us. Do me this favor, though. Smash that like. Go ahead and do it right now. Get it out the way and subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. But we are moving on, and as we move on, the next topic that I want to discuss is something that a lot of people have been kind of talking about. And Iestyn and I, we just touched on it briefly. About Dane Jackson and whether or not Brandon Beane would be willing to trade him at the trade deadline, as it seems as though, the closer and closer that we get to the deadline. I believe it is November the 4th, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Somebody correct me here in the chat if I'm wrong, but that is just around the corner. And there is an individual that I'm going to bring on the show who, another contributor at the Buffalo Fanatics. I'll tell you right now, you need to follow BF, because BF is loaded with a lot of talent, a lot of quality contributors, and people who do so much for the channel to bring you content after content after content that you so enjoy and you crave. And if you love the Bills as much as I do, which I know you do, you can never get enough. Well, this strapping gentleman who's going to join me here right now. He's been on the show. He's no stranger to the show. Matter of fact, you've seen him on the Buffalo Fanatics Writers Club on Saturday mornings. You've heard him on Twitter Spaces, on BF Spaces on Saturday mornings. It is none other than Kevin Siracuse. And my man, I'm going to bring him on right now. We're going to talk about some of the trade deadline potential targets for Brandon Beane. But let me go ahead and bring him in onto the show. And you guys keep it locked right here, because I've got somebody else who's going to be joining me later on in the show, too, that you definitely want to watch. But, yo, Kevin, welcome to the show, my man. How you doing, baby? Long time no see. How you feeling?
Pretty good. Trying to get my background straightened out here. I got a new picture. You see that? Oh, I'm pointing with the wrong picture. I got the Josh Allen one hung up.
The Josh Allen, baby. It looks good, man. It looks good. I
gotta get situated here.
There you go, man. Get yourself together, man. You're looking good, though, man. You look good, sound good. How's everything been, man?
Good. We haven't been on together in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a little while, man. But I'm glad that we're able to link up in and that you're able to come on in such short notice. But man, you had we're talking about some topics tonight, and as you heard in the background, Iestyn and I were talking about Tre'Davious White. And what to expect with his return to the roster and to the lineup, actually. But man, you had written a piece, Kevin, because there's a lot of people talking right now as the trade deadline approaches. You have written a piece, man, on the Buffalo Fanatics site about trades. But there's one particular trade that you talked about, man, that I want to give you the floor because, there's been some buzz, as everybody probably knows by now. There was some buzz about the Bills and Brandon Beane potentially being interested in a said running back by the name of Christian McCaffrey, that maybe he had offered a second round pick for him, or put a feeler out for him, blah blah, and it didn't work out. But he's now in San Francisco. But that's not the only running back that could potentially be available on the trade market right now. Why don't you go ahead and just kind of introduce your article in which you had started to talk about, or what you wrote about specifically, but a specific trade for a specific running back.
So that player is Antonio Gibson with the Washington Commanders. And this all kind of started from my fantasy team because I drafted him and I thought he was going to be a key contributor, especially with Najee Harris not putting up the same numbers that he did last year. And then Brian Robinson comes back in week 5 after getting shot in the leg on August 28th.
Yeah.
He gets all of a sudden bumped up to RB1. Antonio Gibson is RB2, kind of RB3 after J.D. McKissic. And as of late, we've seen Gibson get more touches. It seems like the committee is now Robinson and Gibson, and McKissic is the most expendable one. But Antonio Gibson is a dog. I mean, every time he touches a ball, he makes something happen. And this guy has been underutilized his entire career in Washington. And I know it's only been 2.5 years, so it's not like his entire career, like it's been 7-8 years, anything like that. But he's really not been given the same opportunities that I think that he should have, because he's a special talent. And I think if you use him the right way, his numbers are going to be very, very good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very interesting, right? It's intriguing to say the least when you think about the addition of Antonio Gibson and what he could mean, or I guess how he would fit within this current Bills running back room. But I mean, talk about that. I mean, like how do you see him fitting? I mean, you're suggesting that Brandon Beane go ahead and make the move for Antonio Gibson, but how do you see him fitting in this offense right now? When you look at Motor Singletary, you look at James Cook, the second round draft pick out of Georgia, and then Zach Moss, who I think they're waiting to get rid of anyway. How do you see Antonio Gibson fitting within this offense right now?
Well, I'll just preface it by saying, ultimately, I don't think that the Bills should pull this trade off, but it's very tempting. And I laid out all the reasons. Can you
go ahead and give us one reason. Give us one reason why you think that they should trade for Antonio Gibson.
Can you hear that dehumidifier?
I can't hear anything.
All right, good, because it just came on and it's pretty loud. But if you can't hear it, we're good.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to trade for him, but there are also a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to. So I'll just run through the reasons why the Bills would want to trade for Gibson first, and then we'll get into why you wouldn't want to trade for him. So, first of all, it would be an instant boost to this offense.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, he's a great talent, and the funny thing about Antonio Gibson is he was a wide receiver in college. He went to a community college in 2016 and 2017. Then he transferred to Memphis, and he was a wide receiver for them in 2018 and 2019. But he was kind of like a hybrid. He was pretty much the Deebo Samuel in college, where
he was.
He had, I don't have the exact numbers on me right now, but I believe he had somewhere around 750 rushing yards 750 receiving yards and 350 rushing yards. So he was mainly a wide receiver, but he did get running back snaps, and then he entered the draft in 2020 as a running back. So I almost said Redskins, the Commanders drafted him in the 3rd round in 2020, and he's been a running back ever since. And we're starting to see him be utilized as a wide receiver more and more now that they have Brian Robinson. Right. So if Washington really likes that, he might be the glorified version of J.D. McKissic, and they might not want to trade him. But
because McKissick snaps have started to decline too, right? Since Brian Robinson has come back.
Yeah, and McKissick's 5 years older than Gibson too. McKissick is 29 years old.
Yeah.
So he's on the back end of his career for sure. But as for how Gibson would fit in with the Bills, I think if you were to trade for Antonio Gibson, you are declaring him and Devin Singletary RB1 and RB2. Singletary would still be RB1. I think if you do get Gibson, yes, he's great, but Singletary has proved this is his offense. This is his backfield. So I think what Antonio Gibson would do is push James Cook and Zach Moss further and further down the depth chart. Now, here's the real interesting part about that.
Okay.
By doing that, Singletary is a free agent next year.
Right.
Antonio Gibson has 1 year left on his rookie deal.
Right.
And he only has a $1.6 million cap hit.
He was drafted the same year as Zach Moss, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Zach Moss, that's kind of out there.
Oh, yeah.
Figure out what to do with him. Maybe you want to throw Zach Moss in there with the draft pick. You give that back to Washington, Moss and a day 3 pick. I don't know. I don't know if they'd want to go for it. I don't even know if they want to trade Gibson in the first place. But if you were to get Gibson for this year, you would go all in and have Singletary and Gibson as RB1 and RB2. That would be your duo. And then, like I said, Cook and Moss would just move further down on the depth chart. And basically what you're doing to James Cook is saying, hey, we think you're going to be a special talent in this league, but we're not seeing the progress. We're not seeing that progression that we wanted you to take. So we're going to get Antonio Gibson for the stretch run of this year. He's going to be our insurance policy. And hopefully we win the Super Bowl with Antonio Gibson and Devin Singletary. But next year, we're going to let Devin Singletary walk. We're going to use that money that we're saving to re-sign guys like Tremaine Edmonds and Jordan Poyer. And that's when you're going to come into the equation and you're going to be that pass catching back. You're going to be RB2. Gibson's going to be RB1. So that's why I get hung up a little bit, because it is pretty interesting. And I saw we have a comment about Kareem Hunt.
I'm not too sure about Kareem Hunt, man. I don't. I mean, he's exceptional talent. Yeah. I'm just not too sure if that's the kind of guy that I would bring onto this team, especially on any type of a long-term deal. I mean, I would probably be more inclined to entertain Antonio Gibson because of his as opposed to Kareem Hunt. But I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I could be wrong. He could come here, man, and just be phenomenal. He's a very good. He's a good running back. I mean, what do you think about Kareem Hunt over Gibson?
I would not do that simply because I think Kareem Hunt is what we want James Cook to be, and I think you're going to prohibit Cook's growth. And I know that might sound contradicting to say, well, why would you want Antonio Gibson? And the only reason why I would be very close to pulling the trigger on this deal is the fact that he could be RB1 next year, and you could let Singletary walk. So if the Bills don't want to give a running back a second contract, because that's not really a thing anymore in the NFL, sometimes it is, but sometimes it isn't. But when I was writing the article, I was like, man, this is really, really tricky, because if money's tight and you need to sign Tremaine Edmonds and Jordan Poyer, well, maybe if they're going to let Singletary walk anyways, well, you get Antonio Gibson now, he can be that insurance policy for this year, and then you're only paying him $1.6 million next year to be that starting running back. And the only thing with Cook is that he doesn't get as many snaps this year, but he gets to sit back, watch, learn, grow, mature, and then you unleash him as RB2 next year. So if it were Antonio Gibson against Kareem Hunt, or any running back for that matter, I think I'm taking Gibson simply for the fact that you're building for the present and for the future.
So do you? I guess it boils down to how the Bills view James Cook long term. Like, do they see him as a potential RB1, or do they see him as just a strictly complimentary running back? Which, to me, if that's the case, I think then they really failed by spending a second round draft pick on just a complimentary type of a back. For me, I think that it would just by virtue of their archetype that they're looking for, right? Because we saw it when they went after J.D. McKissick. We saw that didn't work out, and so now they brought in James Cook, and we see what they're looking for And then we heard about them trying to, go after CMC. We know what kind of running back he is. It seems to me that they would like James Cook to actually step into more of an RB1 type of a role, because they spent more draft capital on him than they did on Singletary and Moss, because both of them were drafted in round 3. And so it's very interesting, and it's difficult to figure out, you know what I'm saying? Because I mean, Antonio Gibson, you get him for this year. He and Motor Singletary would be, a very good tandem, you know what I'm saying? At least on paper, you would think that. And then you let Motor walk in free agency. But I mean, you're trading whatever type of capital to get him, but you're going to have to eventually decide to pay him the following year, because he's going to be a free agent, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, well, if you're going to do that, then why not just sign Motor? I mean, I get it. You're just really saving a year's worth of salary, but I'm not too sure, man. It's kind of tough for me. In my opinion, man, I say hand the ball off to Motor, baby. Just let Motor do it. But it is an interesting conversation to have, because, when you look at the running back room right now, you would like it to I guess to improve more, or at least on that RB2 type of a role. You want to have more of a, I guess, more experience and more, you know what I'm saying, in that regards, because James Cook, though he's a rookie, man, and he's still learning. How much do you really want to trust him this year? Fumble issues, all that kind of stuff. But let me ask you this question, Kevin. If Brandon Beane were to make that trade happen, if he were to get Antonio Gibson, bring him here on the roster, how do you see the carries being split between he and Motor Singletary this year?
That's tough, because the Bills don't really run the ball a lot. So I think he would essentially be what James Cook and Zach Moss are now. But then again, Cook and Moss don't really get the ball, because we've seen Singletary kind of take the backfield over a little bit. So then it's like, would you even really need Antonio Gibson? Because then that comes back to what we've been saying the whole time with the whole Christian McCaffrey thing. If you trade for a running back, you are essentially changing your offense. Because if you're going to get a dynamic running back, that kind of means you have to run the ball a little bit more. And the Bills aren't going to want to run the ball more when you have Josh Allen as your quarterback. Yeah. So that's one of the areas that is holding me up, and why at the end of the day, I would say, let's not do this trade. But, there are a lot of the pros that kind of boost that up, and it makes you think. But in terms of what you're asking, I think you would have to give the ball to Antonio Gibson, and I think he would be that pass-catching back. So essentially, he would probably be used like he is in Washington right now, where he might not get a lot of snaps out of the backfield. He might not have a lot of rushes, but maybe he'll have 5 rushes, but he'll get 5 receptions a game, because Singletary, again, he's established himself as RB1. But that's another one of the pros. Antonio Gibson is used to being part of committees. He's never been that bell cow back where he's going to say, hey, give me 30 touches a game. So I think, in 2020, he was splitting snaps with J.D. McKissick and then Peyton Barber. And then last year it was him and McKissick. And now it's him, McKissick, and Brian Robinson. So he's been used to it his whole career. And I think given the circumstances, he would say, like, hey, that's fine with me, because I was splitting snaps with guys that aren't going to bring us to the promised land. But if I have a chance to win the Super Bowl, so what if I only get 10 touches a game? But again, the main thing is he would be essentially what's the word? I can't think of the word, but you're pretty much making him RB1 if you make this trade for 2020.
Yeah. And see, that's my thing. It makes it difficult, but that's kind of where I would hesitate to maybe push back, because I'm like, if you trade for this guy, I don't know what type of assets Bean's going to have to give up in the first place. But if you're going to give up assets just to have him essentially be like James Cook right now, or cut into Motor snaps, you would almost have to have him give him more snaps within the offense to justify making the trade for him. And then if you just want him to play the James Cook role, well, then you could have just kept James Cook. So for me personally, I think this, because when you look at Motor Singletary, even this year we saw last game against the Chiefs. He increased his number of production. His his snap share. I think he had like 17 attempts. So throughout the year, I mean, he was averaging, maybe about less than 10 rushing attempts a game. But then against the Chiefs, he went 17 for 85, right? 5 yards per carry. And he had 4 receptions. But so I think they're starting to see now that if we just utilize Motor as the lead back, the RB1 in our offense within our scheme, that he can produce just as fine for us, and there would be no need for us to get another running back because for what we do, this is all we really need. And then we're starting to see his target share go up in the receptions too, because he's starting to prove himself to be more of a receiving back too. So I think they're utilizing him now in more of an all-around type of a role. He still has to grow and develop when it comes to pass protection. But I think, man, that if they just give the ball a motor, you know what I'm saying? And as long as Josh Allen is not your leading rusher, and he can hand the ball off to somebody who's capable like Motor Singletary, I think they'll be fine. And then James Cook, use him sparingly. I think if you're going to use Motor in more of the rushing aspect of it, sprinkle in Cook and some of the receiving side of it, right? Because when you look at the slot receiving position, that is still kind of unsettled right now with Isaiah McKenzie kind of having being a little bit inconsistent. We got a rookie in Khalil Shakir, but man, maybe you can sprinkle in James Cook and use him as like a James White type of a player, early on in his career, kind of give him some more receiving snaps as opposed to rushing snaps. It's a very interesting conversation to have, nonetheless, which is why I'm glad you wrote the article that you did, and why we're talking about this, because a lot of people are wondering, about this backfield and about what should be done, and we're looking at guys like Christian McCaffrey. Oh, we missed out on, but man, we've got Kareem Hunt, we've got Antonio Gibson, we've got other guys. I wonder what they will look like in this type of an offense, and so it's difficult, man. But I'm team Motor. Right now, I don't know about the long term. I don't think that they're going to re-sign him next year. They might, but I think he wants to prove himself to be RB1. And because they drafted James Cook so high, I think they see James Cook potentially being that guy sooner rather than later. Maybe just not this year. But you actually mentioned about the cost of Gibson and how it might be too much. In your article, you had mentioned that a reason not to target him is because it might cost too much. Talk about what you think it might cost if they were to go that route and get Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, so he, like I said, he was a 3rd-round pick in 2020. So I'm not sure exactly what Washington would want back for him, but I would think that they would at least want a 2nd or 3rd-round pick.
That's rich.
Yeah, I don't think they'd want a 1st. I'm sure maybe they would want a day 3 pick if you can throw it in, but I'm thinking that sweet spot would be like a 2nd or 3rd-round pick. But maybe you can entice them to say, take Zach Moss and a 6th-round pick, something like that, because Moss is expendable here, and that way they're still getting a draft pick. But either way, I think the main reason why this trade will not happen is because, or any trade for that matter, because again, we don't know what's going on with Gibson if he's actually trade bait right now. Right. But in terms of the Bills trading for a running back, I think it won't happen simply because Brandon Beane doesn't like to strip away from the future, because he always says how he wants to win now and in the future. And if you trade for Gibson, you're going to have to give up picks in the future. Now, this one is a little bit better than other. Like if the Bills were to trade for McCaffrey, there goes next year's draft. I mean, 3-4 draft picks. Good night. See you later. But again, the good thing about this trade is that you would already have someone for next year. It's not like Gibson's contract expires at the end of this year, and then it's just like, oh yeah, we're going to use you for an insurance policy, and then we probably won't re-sign you, and then we're losing potentially 2 draft picks because of this trade. Right. I mean, at least for this trade here, you would have RB1 for next year, and that makes it a little bit better. But at the end of the day, I just think Brandon Beane thinks ahead so much that he doesn't want to take away from future success by going all in on 1 year. That's the line that he always says. I never try to go all in on 1 year. We try to go all in every year.
Right.
So I think that's one of the reasons why we don't see this trade happen. A couple of the other reasons why I don't think this would happen is team chemistry. Because speaking of Brandon Beane and just not wanting to strip away from the current team or from the future, that's one of the big things with the Bills, how they always talk about culture and team chemistry that they've established. Yeah. And these guys have really grown up together. I mean, they set the foundation back in 2017, 2018.
Right.
And all these guys have gone through it together. And like I said in the article, not to sound cliche, but they've really put in the blood, sweat, and tears together. And they formed a special bond. And if you're going to walk in the locker room and say, hey, we just got Antonio Gibson, no matter what the package is, if they're sending Zach Moss back, if they're trading draft picks or what, you got to think that the locker room is going to say, hey, I mean, this is great. Antonio Gibson's great, but we love Zach Moss or we love Duke Johnson. I don't know. I just threw his name in there, you know what I mean? Or I don't. I highly doubt they would trade Singletary. But if that was the case, then the locker room would be very, very upset. And I used that quote from Josh Allen.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, after the Baltimore game. And one of the reporters asked him about Motor, and Allen gave a really, really good response. Because a lot of the times these guys will give good responses, but they're very just cut and dry. Or it's just like, you know, got to go back, look at the tape, got to evaluate, you know. But Allen was very, very raw. And he was like, I urge everyone, no matter what your age is, to turn on Devin Singletary tape because he does everything right. And he is everything that a running back is supposed to be and everything that a quarterback wants out of a running back. And I was like, man, like he's going really hard with this. Like he even says, like, I love Motor. So that's why, like, I just don't see it happening between like stripping away picks for the future and messing with that team chemistry. It's just, I don't know. It's tough.
Me too.
The reason why it doesn't happen. And then, not to cut you off, but speaking of team chemistry, the GMs have that rocky history after the whole McKissick deal.
Yeah, thank you. Because I'm glad you said that because I was about to bring it up because somebody in the chat brought it up as well. I'm talking about it. I think it was Mike Harlow. Yeah, Mike. So Mike, he comes in. He says, Beane will never trade with Washington. He hates the Commanders after they talked McKissick into reneging on his Bills deal. That's my thing. I'm like, we're talking about team chemistry and you know how that's built with relationships. There is essentially the relationship between the Bills front office and the Commanders front office has to be like oil and water right now after that deal. I do not see the Bills even picking up the phone after the nonsense and the shenanigans that they pulled in the offseason with J.D. McKissick, which is a great point that Mike brought up, and I'm glad that you also brought it up too, Kevin, because that just leaves a bad taste in the mouth, and you can't once you start burning bridges like that relationally, it's hard to come back from that. It's hard to trust them going forward. So yeah, I just don't see that happening. I like the idea of Gibson, but man, I really think that for now, man, I think they're going to stick with Motor, Cook, and Moss. I think you're going to see more carries given to Motor Singletary, as they should, because all this young man has done his entire career so far with the Buffalo Bills is produce and make the most out of what he's been given. And he's constantly, averaging 4.5 to close to 5 yards per carry, even on limited snap counts. But, just like we saw last year towards the end of the year when they started handing the ball to Motor, he started producing, and he quietly had almost 900 yards rushing last year. And we know how poor the offensive line was for the majority of the year. So now, as we move into the last stretch of the season here, I can see them when they look to run the ball, to hand the ball off, especially after the comments that Josh has made about Motor. I can see them utilizing him more and more within the offense, giving him more of the carries, because we're not a run first team, and we all know that, right? And so it doesn't really make sense for us because of how we're built to have a running back by committee, because we don't run the ball enough for that to make any sense, right? The only time that Motor should succeed carries to anybody else is when he needs a blow, when he's tired. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're just giving him 15 carries a game, I think that he can handle that, right? And so let that man take care of all of it. And I think he'll be just fine within our scheme, within our offense. And I love what he brings to the table. Kevin, before we transition, man, and move on, man. Is there anything else within this article that you would go ahead and just kind of plug something within the article that you want everybody to kind of check into? Because there's some other things that you had mentioned. I don't want you to talk about it, but just plug it real quickly, man, so that way everybody can go and check it out.
Well, I started the article just by talking about the Washington backfield and how they've been splitting up their snaps, and Gibson snaps have really decreased. And again, that's the big reason why I had this idea in the first place. So you can go in and look at the specifics of that, because it is pretty jaw-dropping how Brian Robinson, he was a third-round pick, but Gibson is a third-round pick, and he's a dynamic talent. And as soon as he comes back, Gibson is just like, there you go, you're done, And it's just like, what do you do to lose his job? Because he was putting up the numbers that you wanted, and really, he's still putting up the numbers. I mean, that very, very, very ugly game against Chicago on Thursday night, Gibson didn't get a touch until, I believe, late in the third quarter, and he ended up with 5 rushes for 35 yards. And it's just like, where was this the whole game? Because you're struggling to get offense. Carson Wentz can't do anything, and you don't have Antonio Gibson on the field. Like, what are you doing? So that's why I'm just like, man, trade this guy, get him out of Washington. And I was like, well, maybe the Bills could be a potential fit. And I was like, no, because I really don't think they're going for a running back. But I was like, this is a good conversation to have and a good article topic, because, again, the main thing that I took away from this is you are using Gibson as insurance for this year, and then you are pretty much saying that he is RB1 for next year. So that's why it makes it so interesting.
Yeah, it does. It's going to be interesting to see what Brandon Beane does going forward with this running back room, whether or not he decides to make a trade for a running back, whether he decides to cut bait with Motor Singletary at the end of the year. Maybe he surprises us all and he trades Motor Singletary and brings him. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But needless to say, that we can probably expect some things to happen within the room. If not now, then definitely later on. Kev, man, I appreciate you, man, for hopping on the show, man, tonight. Let everybody know where they can follow you.
So my Twitter is at @KSyracuse5. Syracuse is spelled with an I, not a Y, like the city and the university. So SIRACUSE, and then 5. That was my high school baseball number. So I heard you can change that, right? Like, can you change your Twitter handle?
You can.
Like your username?
Yeah, you can definitely do that.
Yeah, because I'm usually just Kevin Syracuse on everything, but this is Syracuse5. But either way, just search Kevin Syracuse and I'll pop up. And then my articles are on the website here, and then I'll be hosting a space on Twitter tomorrow night to preview the matchup. And one last thing I want to ask you, Rev.
Yeah.
Just kind of in general, but it relates to the article here. And you kind of asked me this already, but I was looking at the stats from the Bills-Chiefs game, because I think this is a most realistic game to go off of, because there are a lot of games where the Bills are going to be heavy, heavy favorites. I mean, talking about the Packers were an 11-point favorite. You have the Lions, the Bears, the Jets, Dolphins, Patriots. So I think you can make a case and say, well, the Bills are probably going to run the ball a lot because they're going to be up by so much. Maybe that's the time to get Antonio Gibson in the game, or James Cook, or Zach Moss. But in a tight contested game like we saw a couple weeks ago in Kansas City, the stats were Singletary had 17 rushes for 85 yards. Josh Allen had 12 for 32, and then Cook had 2 for 8. So going back to the question that you asked me, how would you see that getting split up? Because I'm thinking, if you take, let's just say you take 5 away from Singletary, 5 away from Allen, and then you give those 10 to Antonio Gibson, and then Cook can still have his 2. So Singletary would have 12 rushes, Josh would have 6, Gibson would have 10.
Yeah.
So I don't know, because like you said, Singletary's been running so well, and he's been putting work. And Singletary's been running well, and I think they're going to give him the bulk of the carries going forward. But I tell you what you can do: save that for the spaces.
and invite me on, and we'll talk about that in the spaces, because there's a whole lot to talk about when it comes to that running back room and the trade deadline as it gets closer and closer and closer, and we'll definitely touch on that. But Kev, man, I appreciate you, man, for hopping on. We're gonna keep it moving. You guys, do me this favor. Smash that like from my man Kevin Syracuse, and give him a follow on Twitter at Kevin Syracuse, right? At K Syracuse. Give it to me one more time, Kevin.
At K Syracuse 5.
At K Syracuse 5. Follow my man, and then go to supportbf.com or go to buffalofanatics.com and read this man's articles, Ben, because he pushes out a whole lot of content on a continual basis, and it's very intriguing. A lot of the stuff that he writes, man, is very interesting. It makes you say, you know what I'm saying? Like this conversation here that we're having with Antonio Gibson. But Kev, man, I appreciate you, buddy. We'll talk to you on Spaces, man. Have a good night, man.
Sounds good. I'll be on 9 o'clock tomorrow, so 7 o'clock your time.
There we go. All right, man. Till next time, man. Go Bills, baby.
Go Bills.
You guys, that was my man Kevin Syracuse, contributor at Buffalo Fanatics, man. He puts out a lot of great content, man, for the Bills, and you definitely want to check out that article that he wrote about Antonio Gibson and others as well. But we are moving on into the show, guys. I appreciate you, man. We're an hour and 20 into the show, and we are going to close it up here very soon with my final guest of the night. We are, man, look here, we're keeping it moving, man. And if you guys have enjoyed the show so far, do me this favor. Smash that like and make sure you go ahead and click the subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell as well, so that way you can make sure that you are up to date, in lockstep with everything related to the Buffalo Bills, because this is going to be an historic season with the Bills. I definitely guarantee that. But as we move on, man, we're going to talk about. I've got something very interesting to talk about, man. We've got to kind of briefly preview, I guess you can say, the Bills-Packers game, right? But most importantly, man, there's some things. There's a couple of games that happened, and I want to pose a question to the chat and to everybody who's watching, to everybody who's listening on podcast format. Is this the end of an era? Is this the end of an era? What do I mean by that? Well, you're going to have to keep it locked right here and find out, because I'll be right back. And with my next guest coming on, we're going to dive into that, talk about whether or not this is going to be the end of an era going forward. But until then, guys, keep it locked right here and listen to a word from our sponsor right at BetUS. We'll be right back.
Listen up, sports bettors. Your favorite sports book, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in all season long. With live in-game betting, incredible odds with daily odds boosters, props, parlays, fast payouts, and exceptional customer service, BetUS.com has you covered. Visit BetUS.com to sign up today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Absolutely, absolutely. Make sure you guys go ahead and check that out at BetUS.com. We so appreciate them for being our sponsor. But before I bring on my next guest, I've got to go back. I want to go back through some super chats, and my man Jeff King came through. Jeff, man, I appreciate you so very much, man. He came in with a fire super chat, and he asks this following question. Well, he just makes a statement, Jeff, as he can only do. Jeff King says, "Yo, BF, thank you to you and your families. I know the time that you guys at BF give up with your families to bring us this content 5 to 6 times a week. Please know that it has not gone unnoticed or unappreciated. Thank you all, and God bless you and yours." Man, Jeff, look, dude, look. If you only knew, brother, how much, man, we appreciate you, dude. Like, and I'm not talking, this goes beyond, you know what I'm saying, what people may see, right? I'm talking about your genuineness, man, your straightforwardness, man, your love and support for BF, even on a friendship level. Man, we really appreciate you, man, so very much, man. And God bless you and your family as well. And thank you so very much, man, because it's by viewers and supporters like you, man, that keeps us going. And so we appreciate you. We appreciate your support, but we appreciate your friendship, man. You guys give it up for my man, Jeff King. He is the king indeed. But guys, somebody's already talking about it, man. Look at Mike. I need Mike Harvey. Mike, you need to stay out of my topic, baby. You stay out of it. Okay, you can't get ahead of me. Where's he at? Mike says, yo, Brady and Rodgers headed to retirement home. Man, you silly, man. You silly. So as we get ready to wrap up the show, I mentioned I've got one last guest I want to bring on to the show. Man, he's been rocking with BF for a long time, and maybe you guys know him. He's come to BF a few times. But yo, if you've never seen him on BF, I know you've got to have heard of him on Spaces, because he is tearing up the Twitter Spaces, man, left and right. He's making fan bases across the NFL mad and heated. He's representing the Buffalo Fanatics and the Bills Mafia like a true Bills fan should, and he's letting them know that this is not the year to be playing with the Bills. We coming for you. We ripping heads off, man. But yo, he is doing the thing in Spaces along with other guys and gals as well, man. And I'm so glad to be joined by what I call a friend of mine, and that is none other than my man Silas Whittle. Silas,
what's up, Brad? How you doing?
Man, it's all love, baby. How you been, brother?
Man, I've been good, man. I've been good. I can't complain. You know, the Bills are 5-1 coming out the bye week.
Yes, sir.
You know, Trey White is back on the roster.
Yes, sir.
You know, Josh Allen is the MVP. He's
No
the best
doubt.
player. He's the best player in football. Like, don't let anybody change. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise or tell you different. Like, Josh Allen's the best player in football.
He the
The
best.
stats don't lie, man. The numbers don't lie.
Hands down, Josh Allen is the best, man. He's performing at an elite clip this year, man. He is, the things that he's doing it's just remarkable. There was I'm trying to find it. There was a tweet that came out earlier today, and I think I retweeted it, man. Talking about just the numbers that Josh Allen has been putting out and what he's trending towards right now. When you look at Josh, his numbers, man, are phenomenal. And I'm trying to see where it is, where I tweeted it. But anyway, man, I think he's on pace for like over 5,600 yards passing. Over 5,600 yards passing, and probably like just shy, just under like 50 touchdowns. Like the year that he's having is ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous.
The numbers are ungodly, man. It's almost criminal what he's doing to these other teams. I mean, you know, one thing that we love about Josh Allen is that every year he comes back and he improves on something that was a flaw the year before. So, you know, I talked to you earlier about being in a space, having a space with some guys from the Packers fan base, and they were just saying like, well, you know, we're gonna make Josh Allen be patient, and we're gonna make sure nothing gets behind us, and we're just gonna play and keep everything in front of us. And I'm like, I don't know if you guys watched the Rams game, but that was their strategy. We beat them 31-10.
Yeah.
You know, so the Chiefs tried it, they lost as well, so they got tired of it, realized it wasn't working, and then, you know, we moved the ball down the field in other ways. The other thing that Green Bay does is they like to blitz. They're third in blitz percentage in the NFL. And when you blitz Josh Allen, he absolutely murders you. So
you.
I don't know what these guys are going to do, to be honest. I mean, besides lose, but, you know, I don't know what they can do to keep it close. I mean, honestly, Rag.
Say, man, because I'm with you, brother. Blowout.
Dude, I don't see another loss on this schedule, man. I've been looking through this schedule. I don't see it. And the fact of the matter is that at the end of this year, we might be looking back at this regular season and saying, wow, we were a dirted 2-yard pass from Josh Allen in Miami to Isaiah McKenzie away from being perfect.
Being perfect.
We're 11.5 favorites. We have 11. The line is 11.5 right now. And for Green Bay. For Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay,
dude,
that's crazy.
The last time a line was like that, I think it was what was it? The Steelers. I think it was. Man, was it 13 or something like that? Or
the line opened up at 14.5.
Yeah,
and I think it got up to 15, and I think it settled in at like 13.5 or 14, something like that.
And we know what happened with that game.
Yeah, we blew the spread apart.
Dude, like,
it was ugly.
It's ugly, man. Like, look, I get it. Like, You know, I mean, you know, you want to be respectful and all that kind of stuff. Man, it's Aaron Rodgers, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, man, bump all that. Look. At the end of the day, and I get it, man. I mean, there's a point where you have to be, you know, you want to be respectful, right? And you're like, you know what? Aaron Rodgers, you know, he's a future Hall of Famer, all this kind of stuff. But I mean, Z-Bot had said a couple of weeks ago, he's like, at some point we need to say, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, at some point we need to say, you know, this Bills team is just that good. You know what I'm saying? And we can't keep giving these guys, you know, this extra credit for namesake. You know, like sometimes we tend to do that with the Patriots, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, right. It's the Patriots, you know, and we did that. You know, I even caught myself with the Steelers, you know what I'm saying, before that game. I'm like, it may be closer than we think. And you know, it's like, well, it's the Steelers. We blew them out. Like at some point, we just need to say, like, you know what? This team is either not that good or the Bills are just that much better than they are. And it's okay for us to accept that the Bills are an elite football team right now, playing elite football. So far 6 games into the season right now, 5-1. Josh Allen is on a ridiculous MVP streak, which I don't think it's even remotely close. I see some people talking about, well, him and Patrick Mahomes, no, bump all that because you know what I'm saying, Josh Allen ain't losing games.
Wait. I'm sorry. Did somebody say what they say, Rev?
Yeah. I think it was on ESPN. They were talking about the MVP race. And,
right.
And somebody, I got to find the tweet, man. One of them on there, I don't know. I think it was Stephen A. It may have been Stephen A. I got to go back and look for it. But he was like, "No, it's Josh Allen. It's between Allen and Mahomes." But he gave the edge to Mahomes, and they were like, "Dude, you tripping, man."
You know, we had a discussion. I had a discussion with a Chiefs fan, on Twitter. Well, like last week, I think it was. It might have been earlier this week. And we were just talking about how, like, these media pundits that shape the narrative, the national narrative, really, like, if you're listening to Stephen A. and ESPN for your sports information, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because these people are paid. They're paid to entertain you. They're not paid to educate you.
That's right.
So they get paid for the antics. They may be able to recite stats and things like that, but I guarantee you, these guys are not watching the film. They're not. They're not watching the film. They're not bringing the game down the way it should be, and they're not bringing that information to you. Stephen A. If Stephen A. was paying attention to what's going on in the NFL right now, he would understand that Patrick Mahomes leads the league, and Patrick Mahomes, I think, has one more passing touchdown than Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. I think the Chiefs, as of last week, because we had a bye, last week the Chiefs outscored the Bills by 3 points total in the season. Mm-hmm. But the difference is Josh Allen was wearing a baseball cap for 3/4 quarters within the first six games. So
see, they don't want to talk about that.
Right, like we're talking about 45 minutes of extra time that Patrick Mahomes had to gin up some stats. I mean, it's the same thing with Tyreek Hill and these receiving yards. Yeah, he might have an edge over Stephon Diggs right now, but he's played way more time. He's had way more opportunity to get it done. So yeah, I just think, listen, man, the Bills are, in the words of Lee Sean and my boy Lee Sean.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Listen, the Bills are a wagon. We're not taking any team lightly. We're ready for everybody on the schedule. Buffalo's ready for every team on the schedule. We're not playing. We're not taking any weeks off. There are no trap games. We're taking everybody seriously. We're punching you in the mouth. We'll punch you in the mouth early and off. We try to get you out of there so my quarterback can have his baseball cap on in the third quarter. Yeah, I mean third quarter.
Eating sunflower seeds. Yeah.
Pull out the baseball caps, man. Because in the fourth quarter, my star is not playing.
He ain't playing.
My star is not playing, man.
And that's the type of season that these Bills are having. Like these are the games they have now. Granted, there may be a couple of games here and there where they're closer, but man, look here. If you ain't coming with it, you about to get blown out the water. And Josh is having that type of year. Here it is. I'm going to share my screen so that way everybody can see what I'm talking about here. Josh is on an historic level season. And I don't think that we really understand what that means. Here's Josh right here. You guys let me know if you can see this here. This tweet here was put out by Sunday Night Football. I said Josh Allen right now is on pace for 5,610 passing yards on the year and 48 touchdowns. 5,610 passing yards and 48 touchdowns. You say, all right, Brad, that's a lot, but we're like, what's the significance? What makes it historic? I'm gonna tell you what makes it historic. This is what makes it historic. 5477. Remember that number. 5477 or 5,477. That number right there is the current record, the single season passing yard record currently held in the National Football League right now by Peyton Manning. He has 5,477 passing yards in one single season. Holds the record right now. If Josh Allen at this pace hits 5,610, he is your new NFL single season passing record leader. He's the holder, I should say. It's Josh Allen. That's the type of year he is having right now. And that's with, as you alluded to, Silas, him sitting in the third quarter, at the end of the third quarter, with his ball cap on, eating sunflower seeds. That's what he's doing to people. That's what he's doing to teams this year. Josh is having a remarkable year, and I don't make any apologies about it. I'm not backing off of it anymore. I went on and put out something last week talking about. I'm tired of people talking about, with the Bills, they only blow teams out, but they can't win close games, or we've won close games. But I'm not. You're gonna penalize the Bills for being that great. It's not our fault, man. It's not their fault, Silas. They're just that good, man. Look, these teams, they need to catch up. And right now, the Bills are all gas, no brakes. They are not letting off the gas for anybody, including Aaron Rodgers, who we're going to see Sunday night at Highmark Stadium. And he better make sure he comes correct. All this name dropping he's doing right now in the media about his play, trying to motivate his team, he better make sure he comes with it. Because I guarantee you right now, ain't nobody afraid of Aaron Rodgers right now, especially looking at the weapons that he has. Who does he have, Silas? Educate us, man. Who was Aaron Rodgers going to be throwing the ball to that we should be concerned about?
Man, I mean, they bringing Sammy Watkins back. And listen, if y'all go into the game, make sure y'all boot. Make sure you get down in your diaphragm. Bring it from your soul. Give Sammy Watkins the biggest boost you can feel in your heart. Like just fill up your airwaves and just give him the biggest boo that you can. Because that dude came here, we traded up to get him. We spent capital to get this guy, and he was a colossal failure. Yeah, I mean, he did have some good years, but the man couldn't stay healthy. And I don't know if he even wanted to stay healthy. He couldn't wait to get out of Buffalo, and we're glad he's not here now. Outside of that, Romeo Dobbs or Dobbs, I'm not exactly sure on the pronunciation, but I think they got him in the 5th round. I think picked him up in the 5th round out of University of Nevada.
Out of Nevada.
The kid's a dog. Like he's a really good receiver, real good hands, good footwork. He's got decent speed down the field. He's a good player. Christian Watson, I banged the table for all summer for Christian Watson. Like if anybody was following me on Twitter or in the comment sections of these videos, I was banging the table for Christian Watson. 6'4", 4.2 speed, or 4.3 speed, 6'4". Just the kid does it all, man. Like I mean, the kid punt return, you can line up in the slot. He runs the ball. He does kickoff returns. He hands catcher, get the ball deep. Wins 50-50. I mean, his RAS scores off the hook. The that kid's a boss, man. They got Randall Cobb, but I mean, I don't even know if Randall Cobb is playing. I haven't seen the report. But they do have a really good tight end. Tanyan's a really good tight end, and they got that two-headed monster running back in Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. But that offensive line is underperformed. All of the names that they have on defense, I mean, a lot of them aren't playing well. They drafted Devontae Wyatt, I think they got him in the 1st round. They don't even really play him. Quay Walker's a good player. Quay Walker out of Georgia, he's a good player. I mean, they got a lot of athletes, man, on that team. But what it comes down to is, can you stop Josh Allen? And they don't
That's
have
it.
the horses to do it. You couldn't
That's it.
stop Daniel Jones. You couldn't stop Zach Wilson. What you gonna do with Josh
How
Allen?
you gonna stop Josh?
Yeah, like this is the winter soldier, man. I'm sorry. You had trouble with these. You had trouble with the babies. Like you.
Right.
This is the big dog. You know what I mean? You had trouble with the puppies. This is the big dog, man. Like I don't know what you plan on doing.
And you coming to Buffalo to play.
Right. And you coming in our building. Green Bay hasn't won in this building.
They haven't. And then you look at the guys. I saw a tweet by Steph. He just said, refocus. You know what I'm saying? Like they're ready. They are. This team, man, is on a Super Bowl hungry run, and I feel sorry for teams who have to face us, because like we're not playing with these guys no more, man. Like we're done with it. Like last year, what happened, you know what I'm saying? And I think it was better for them, because now they came here with a different type of an edge. And then not only them, but man, you look at Ken Dorsey too, man. He's a fiery guy, man. He's like we're playing to chop heads off. Like it ain't no joke. People say, well, man, they had a week off. How the Bills gonna do coming off of the bye week, and look, they're gonna be just fine. Refocus, recharge, reset, all that kind of stuff. They're gonna come out firing on all cylinders, man. And the Packers better get ready, because this game can get out of hand really quick. And if it does,
Rev, let me give you a quick matchup.
Give it to me.
Let me give you a quick matchup. Their cornerback number one is Jair Alexander. He's one of the best corners in the league. I'm pretty sure he's going to be matched up with Stephon Diggs. While you might look at that as sometimes and say, can't really count on Diggs. Diggs is on a mission this year to prove that he is that guy. He's gonna
lead the league in receiving.
Yeah, he's not playing. Like, it doesn't matter who lines up on the other side of him. He's going after him. But the matchup that you got to watch out for is Eric Stokes, the other corner.
That dude's a dog, man. He's nice.
Eric Stokes is a good player. Got great top end speeds. Got good size at corner. Mm-hmm. His issues though is his footwork, his agility, and not great. Did have a great RAS score. He did test very well coming out of college, but the agility scores are very low. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem when you got to cover a guy like Gabe Davis. Because what we saw Gabe Davis do to those Kansas City corners in last year in the playoffs, if your footwork isn't together and you got to go up against Gabe Davis,
it's over with.
Yeah, man. Read him his rights, man. Read him his last rights, man. So and Eric Stokes is giving up when targeted, he's giving up an 85% completion percentage.
That's correct.
That's hard. Like, dude, that's you going up against the best of the best. You just got done playing third string guys with the Giants, and then you played the Jets with their receivers and Zach Wilson throwing for a cool 170, 180 yards every week.
Right.
The combination of Josh Allen to Gabriel Davis down the field, it's ugly. It's ugly. And if your footwork and if your feet can't do what your mind is telling it to do, you might be in trouble. You might end up on SportsCenter for all the wrong reasons, Mr. Stokes.
Oh, man.
So get prepared.
It's bound to happen. And I guarantee it, Ken Dorsey and Josh, they're going to dial it up, man. They're going to dial it up. They're going to test Stokes or whoever's on them. And and I think this could also be a good game for like guys like McKenzie or Shakir, or just underneath the game with Dawson Knox. I mean, Josh has so many weapons at his disposal, man. That's what makes this team so dangerous, man. On top of him being just the elite of the elite, and I just don't see it, Silas. I just don't see it. I don't see a way these Bills lose, or let me say this: I don't see a way these Bills get beat by another team. Okay, if they beat themselves, then that's one story. But I don't see, if they're on their A game, firing on all cylinders, I don't see how the Green Bay Packers and their depleted weaponry on offense is going to march into Buffalo and Highmark Stadium against the likes of Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver, you know what I'm saying, Daquan Jones, freaking Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds, who are having Pro Bowl caliber type of seasons right now. Jordan Poyer. I mean, you got the corners in Elam and Jackson. How? I don't see it happening, man. I'm trying not to come off as arrogant, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just that confident. I don't see how it's going to happen. But I want to pose this question to you, Silas, man, because I had kind of teased it earlier. We saw something happening over the last couple of weeks, man, with some of these dogs that we're talking about who were the greats, or maybe are the greats, or maybe they're not the greats anymore. I don't know, man. But when you look at guys like Tom Brady, and then specifically Aaron Rodgers as we match up with him this weekend, man, is it the end of an era for these guys? When you look at their respective teams, you look at Tom Brady, what he's done so far, man, looking like a shell of his former self. And then you look at Aaron Rodgers and the slide that his team has faced, and he's not owning up to any of it. Are we seeing the fall of the last great NFL quarterbacks?
I think the issue that Brady has is Brady's not focused, and I can't even sit here and take credit for that. I heard that in space in some of the Twitter spaces earlier today, and it made a lot of sense. Like, Brady is, he's taking time away from the team to go to different events and do different things, and he's also got, this. I mean, it's not even a feud. It's just that one. Yeah, it's just so much happening in his personal life, and I think it's spilling over into the locker room, into the football field. And if you're not locked in, it's very difficult to get guys to kind of follow behind you and do what you want them to do. So I think there's a disconnect there. Brady's got to make a decision on, is he going to be a football player? Is he going to take care of what he's got going on at home? Do
you see Brady? Do you see him finishing the year? If the Bucks continue on this losing slide? Because I had posed this question. I think I put it on Twitter. Like, is it possible? Or I maybe just shared it within a group. Can you see Brady calling it quits mid-season at some point within the season if the Bucks happen to continue on the slide and he just continues to look the way he looks? Does he finish out the season, or do you see him quitting early? I mean,
he'll finish. He'll finish the year, Rab. Yeah. He's too much of a competitor, man.
Yeah,
he's too much of a competitor. But this is pretty much the same team that they had last year, and they are severely underperforming. Right. They dealt with injuries last year. What's the difference between last year and this year? Head coach.
Head coach, man. Head coach. Head coach, man. Aaron's. I mean, it makes a big difference. It really does. And you would expect Brady to be able to kind of figure it out, right? With those weapons. I mean, same team like you mentioned. Then you look at the Packers. That team is different. I mean, you remove one of the best receivers in the game in Devontae Adams from their roster, and you try to replace him with the likes of Sammy Watkins and some rookies and an aging vet, and what I'm saying, bringing him back in Randall Cobb, from Dallas, and it's just a recipe for disaster. And you're starting to see it happening and unfolding before our eyes. And this is a question I wanted to pose, man, because I was like, man, this seems uncharacteristic, and I know, like, even just across different sports, man. I mean, what I'm saying, you see the greats, and not all the greats, not all of them finish on top of the mountain, man. Like, it's just like they're wired a certain way to where that competitive nature in them just doesn't let them quit when they're on top. It's like there's always going to be this decline and this fall that you see, and the fall, you can see them fall from grace, so to speak, and you're like, dang, there goes another one, another fallen king, another fallen great, and I wonder if we're starting to see that in Brady or even Aaron Rodgers right now, and wondering, like, was it Aaron Rodgers, or is it like Devontae Adams? It was like what is it? Like, is it that much of a difference? So, what I'm saying? Or can he not make it happen without a guy like Devontae Adams? I don't know, man. It just brought up a whole lot of questions in my mind about this. But one thing I do know that I'm not questioning, that's the fact that the Bills are going to put on an absolute clinic on these guys Sunday night. WB2DX comes in, and he's already given score predictions, man. He's already saying, Bills 42, Packers 9. Man, we're gonna get into some score predictions here in a minute, Silas, before we go out, man. But you know what I want to do? We're talking about the year that Josh Allen's having, the Bills are having it, and it just kind of you can see the momentum and you can see the difference in these guys' eyes and the way they're performing. They're different this year. It looks different. I want you to give me a hot take, man, so to speak. And this is going to be one of my old segments, man. This is called On My Mama. Silas, you know about it. You know about it. This is On My Mama. Check this out.
On my mama. On my mama. I put that on my mama.
Silas, On My Mama, man. This segment right here is where you give a hot take about the Bills going into this next game or just in general, and put it on my mama. Off the cuff, man. Do you have anything that I gotta put you on the spot, man?
That's fine. I'm ready. I'm already ready. I already got it.
Here we go. Listen. Here we go. And you know how you intro, man.
On my mama.
Okay, here we go.
On my mama.
On my mama. Let me sell it to you. Here's Silas. Check it.
On my mama. The Buffalo Bills will lock up the 1 seed for the AFC with a win on December 18th against the Miami Dolphins. We're going to absolutely punish them boys for what happened to us in week 3. We're going to absolutely punish them. And we're going to lock up the AFC for the remainder of the playoffs and after that game with a win against them. That's on my mama.
There we go, baby. On my mama. We're going to lock it up. Number 1 seed, man. I love it. And you know what? There's something on to it. I can see it happening too, man. Look, the Dolphins, they might as well just give it up. I hope they enjoyed their win, because when they come to Buffalo, man, they're going to get completely obliterated. It's not even.
That was their Super Bowl. That was the biggest one in their franchise history in the last 20 years. That was it.
That was it, man. And I hope they enjoyed it, because they ain't gonna get that. They're not gonna taste another one. Which is kind of funny right now. You're talking about the number 1 seed right now. If the plans were to start right now, the Bills have the number 1 seed right now. But then when you look at the rest of the AFC, 3 of the AFC teams are actually in the playoffs right now. And the Dolphins with the 6th seed and the Jets, the 5 seed. We'll see how that continues as we move on up closer in the season. But man, look here, that's what the Bills are after right now. It's that number 1 seed, and teams, whoever, you got to come to Buffalo, and it's gonna be lights out. It's gonna be lights out. I got an On My Mama take, baby. Let me solo my doggone self, man. Let me get to it. Where am I? Here I am. On my mama. And I'm gonna say this because my son says it too. He says he comes on here and he plays around. He says, "Yo, Daddy, on my mama." So here it is, on my mama. This year, Josh Allen, and I teased it earlier. Josh Allen is going to break the single season passing record that's currently being held by Peyton Manning with 5,477 yards. Josh Allen is going to break it. He's not just going to barely break it. He's going to break it by a significant margin. On my mama, he's breaking records. I told y'all before, this is an epic record-breaking season for the Bills and Josh Allen. You heard it here first. Watch out for that. That's on my mama. And not only are they doing that, man, I agree with you, Silas. They're getting that number 1 seed, man. That's
yeah. Pack your thermals, guys. You're coming to Buffalo for the playoffs. That's how it's going. The playoffs run through Buffalo this year. It's
going to run through Buffalo, man. And man, I can't wait, dude. I can't wait for that. And when the AFC Championship is hosting in Buffalo, man, I don't see any team right now. Look at the AFC right there. I don't see any team who's going to come to Buffalo, the AFC Championship game, and even really compete. I just don't see it. Maybe if the Chiefs manage to get there, maybe it's another close game. But I don't see that even happening either, man. I think the Bills are going to go on an absolute tear.
I wouldn't sleep on Cincinnati. Cincinnati's got the weapons on both sides of the ball to compete with Buffalo. Yeah. That's a team I'm looking forward to seeing when we play them. That's really I think that's really the only team that has enough talent on both sides of the ball in the AFC to compete with us at home in a playoff game.
But their O-line has to hold up, though.
Yeah,
I mean, I know they made some changes, but man, you know what I'm saying? Like they got to hold up and get ready for for the attack by Von Miller and Rousseau and all them boys up front, man. It's gonna be, and by then, Trey's gonna be playing.
Absolutely.
Trey's gonna be ready.
I'm surprised he's not playing. I mean,
yeah, talk about that, man. Yeah,
you could have scripted it a better way, man. They should have let Trey play this game, even if you don't trust him to fully play the whole game.
Yeah,
bring that man out. Allow that man to come out, run out that tunnel. Give the team a bigger boost.
Yeah.
To go into this team, that would electrify the crowd, man. But we'll save him up. We'll save him up. He'll be ready for the Jets.
For the Jets, yeah, he's ready for the Jets.
I'll be at that game. So if you come into the game, definitely holler at me. We got the tailgate situation set up.
My brother, man. Look here, ladies and gentlemen, smash that like for my man Silas.
And listen, smash that like because we gotta get Rav to a game. That's the next thing. That's the next thing on the plate, Rav. I'm talking. Me and LeSean gonna put something together, man. We're gonna get you out here. We're gonna get you out here to one of these games. That's on my mama. That's the hot take. That's on my mama. We're gonna get you at one of these games. We're gonna get you up there to one of these games.
Don't you do that to me, brother. That's a dream come true, man. I've never been to Buffalo, let alone a Bills game, man. My dad's from Buffalo originally, man, and they moved out. He's in Oklahoma, man, and I've never been ever. And that's like a dream of mine, man, to be able to go to Bills, especially right now when they're good, to go to one game with the rest of Bills Mafia, man. Look, that would mean so much to me, man. Don't you get me on here all emotional?
Hey, Rev, listen, I already put it on my mama, bro. It's happening.
For sure.
It's happening. You know what I'm saying? Like that's.
Man, I can't wait.
Listen, Mafia means family, bro. So we take care of our own. So.
And I see you repping that hoodie too, man. Show everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the Bills Mafia joint. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Every time I come up here, I'm gonna try to come up with something. I'm gonna try to come up with some new drip, something different.
Yeah.
I don't want to just keep the jersey on. I'm gonna come with something different, man. Every time, man. But yeah, we gonna get you to a game, Rab, man. We got to do that. We got to do that.
Let me know, man. I'm out here in West Texas, man, where it's hot. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I got to get myself ready. You know what I'm saying? Blood is thin down here. I get cold, 60 degrees, and brother gets cold. So I'm about to. Get myself together.
We get you in a North Face jacket, man. Some boots or something, man. Don't bring them cowboy boots. Don't bring cowboy boots. No. Yeah, we got you, though. We got you, man. We gonna get you right, man. Get you up here, get you to a game, man, and get you over to Buffalo, man. Definitely.
Sure, man. Look here, I appreciate that. So that means a lot, man. Look here. And you know what else means a lot to me, man? And all of you guys have been watching this show, hanging with us, man. Almost 2 hours, man. It felt like it's only been an hour. I appreciate you guys so very much for joining us, man, and watching. Smash that like, man. You'll follow my man Silas on Twitter. Silas, let everybody know, man, where they can follow you, brother.
Whittle 2K. That's WHITTLE, the number 2, the letter K. Send me a follow. We got a space going tomorrow night with Sal Capaccio, myself and a couple other guys, LeSean Jermaine, my man Brad, my man Coach. Like we got some stuff popping off on Twitter, man. So if you want to be entertained, you want to hear some Bills talk, man, come holler at us, man. We get it going every day.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, you guys got to do that, man. Get my man a follow, watch him, listen to him on Spaces. They hold it down for real. And I appreciate you, Silas, man, for hopping on, baby.
Always.
Yeah, man. It's all love, man. It's all love. And everybody else who's watching and to those who are listening via podcast format, man, I appreciate you guys for tuning in as well. God bless you, man. And until next time, you guys want to keep it locked right here on the absolute best network, bringing you the best in Bills content. It's the Buffalo Fanatics, brought to you by BetUS. You already know what time it is. You already know who it is. Make sure you keep it locked right here. Stay tuned as the week progresses. We got on Friday night, we got my man Rico coming on Friday Night Live. You already know what that's going to be like. And then we got the Spaces popping up on Saturdays. And then the pregame on Sunday as we get ready for Sunday Night Football. The Bills hosting the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers at Highmark Stadium. Get ready for that game. Silas, do you have any score predictions, man, before we go out?
Yeah, man, I'm gonna go Bills 38, Packers 20, man. Packers 20.
I like it. I'm gonna get the Bills a 40 burger, man. I'm gonna give them 42. the Packers 17. 42-17. I think the Bills are going to just beat the brakes off them. They're going to have a 40 burger. It's going to be ridiculous. We're going to be loving it, having fun, and then we're going to get ready for the Jets, and we're going to slap Zach Wilson and his MILF-loving self, left and right, all over.
Yeah, we're gonna be at that game. Me and Lee Sean gonna be at that game, man. We're gonna be going crazy in the stands. They're gonna hate us. They're gonna throw us out of that light.
It's all good though, man. That's what we gotta do, man. That's what we gotta do. You guys, man, yo, signing off, man. This is my man, Silas. It's your man, Rev. Until next time, baby. Grace and peace. God bless. And as always, baby, go
Bills.
Go Bills. There we go.